It's Way Up with Angela Yee, and this is for my Mastery of Comedy segment, which is something that is near and dear to my heart because y'all know I love comedy. Jasmine Brand is here joining me, guest co-hosting all week. And today we have Kwame Clark and Ray DeJon here.
Hey, Angela. Hi.
Now, the reason I have both of you here, I actually came to the venue that you guys have in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Is it called Laughaholics now or 275?
No, it's called 275 Park, home of Laughaholics.
Okay, there we go.
I didn't want to lose that part of it, yeah.
home of Laughaholics.
So
yes.
And it's good to have the name of the venue as the address because we cannot forget 275 Park.
Exactly.
But it's in Brooklyn, great location, right on the corner of Park and Washington. And so Ray DeJon, legendary. As you see, he has on his video music box sweatshirt.
That's right.
Yes.
I had to wear this.
Yes.
I made a point to put this on.
But also a great host, great comedian. This is your partner, Kwame, in 275 Park, home of the Laughaholics, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's get into, let's start with the venue and then let's move backwards.
Okay.
So tell us about opening this new venue because I saw you guys had the soft launch earlier in January. And I just want to go through the process of what made you decide to do this.
Well, I met Kwame years ago. He was the director of the Performing Arts Center at York College, mm-hmm. and I would produce and promote shows at his venue. I would do my Laughaholics April Fool's show and other shows involving old school R&B, old school hip hop, and comedy. And so we developed a working relationship then. And a few years into that relationship, we said, "Hey, man, maybe one day we could, create our own venue and have our own venue." The pandemic hit, mm-hmm. and the conversation came up again, and this time we said we're going to go for it. And from that point, you could take it on from there.
Yeah, from that point, it was kind of, you just jumped in, feet first, head first, everything, and went for it. We found a space and got to work.
Yeah, it's like I've been blowing up everybody's venues for years.
Mm-hmm.
From Lindenwood Diner to Three Bees Cafe to City Point to all of these venues. And I bring, I have a really faithful following, and I would go there. I make money from it, and don't get me wrong, like Lindenwood Diner, I was there for 15 years doing 2 nights a week, mm-hmm. doing comedy, but they treated me well.
Right.
But I just felt like it was time for me to get my own. I call it the last chapter.
Yeah, ownership is important.
Yes.
And it's a lot of accountability, too, because then you have good days and bad days. And that's the thing. There's times when you get a check and you get a steady check and know what you're getting. But being an owner is different.
Being an entrepreneur is different.
Very different.
Yeah.
It's way different.
What's been the biggest challenge as far in terms of this entire process of having your own now?
Biggest?
Mm-hmm, the biggest challenge.
Community.
How so?
I hate to say that, but so where the venue is a great location. You know what they say, location, location,
mm-hmm.
location.
And you pay for
location. It's a great location. It is in the Clinton Hill neighborhood where there are progressive blacks and whites that live in that area, and there's a lot of gentrification going on. And so when the community heard that we were putting a comedy venue there, they were opposed to it. When
What?
We were going,
Why?
Yeah, they opposed it.
Yeah.
I don't know. They came on to the community board meeting and they were saying, no, there was a club over there called Rain before.
I remember Club Rain.
Okay.
Yeah,
Don
and they
Poole
had,
is sincere.
yeah, right, Don Poole, who is now an incredible owner
Brooklyn Chop
Yes.
House.
of Brooklyn Chop House.
Shout out
So
to Brooklyn Chop House.
he's a great guy. But so there was a lot of challenges, but the community board felt us, and I'm also a resident in the neighborhood. I grew up in Park
That
Slope.
helps.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Clinton Hill. I own there, and so that was kind of like the point where the community board said, listen, we got to give these guys a chance.
Yes.
And it's New York City. If you don't want to hear any sort of noise, you need to move to the suburbs.
You got that right.
That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go to Club Rain, so I
Yeah,
feel their
me
pain
too.
because it definitely would have no parking on the street because of that, and it does create like people. But the way that you're setting up 275 Park is different.
Yes.
It's and this is what he told me when I came. He said, "This is 35 and over."
I know that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My son asked, can he do his party there? I was like, hell to the no.
How old
You
is your son?
cannot. He's 24.
Okay,
I
he's
said
too
you were
young.
looking for a cougar for him.
Well, I am.
Ah!
I'm probably going to give out the number later for my son. By the way, I caught him having sex in my bed during the pandemic.
No.
But we'll talk about
Wait
that
a
later.
minute.
Listening
Wait,
to
wait
my
to bury the
Marvin.
lead.
Did he have a mask on?
No. Listening to my Marvin Gaye CD.
I know that's right.
Did it ruin the moment for him? Did you let him finish, or did you?
Nah, I mean, I'm a guy, but I'm a dad.
You're a dad to
so I
your
had to be a dad. I had to discipline him. But then at the end of the day, like when I told him to go downstairs, him and his,
Friend.
Yeah, whatever. I'm like, the dad part of me was like, wow, my man got some, you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
He got some Uchi.
You gave him
Oh
a
my
pound.
And then I found a box of Magnum condoms. I'm like, okay,
All
he
right,
protected
good for
himself.
you,
Yeah, good. He's
Until I thought
responsible.
about it, I'm like, I don't even wear Magnum condoms. Now I'm in therapy
Oh my God.
because my son got a bigger sharsh than me.
I would say, Ray DeJon, just so you know, some guys wear them but don't necessarily need them.
Right.
They just like the packaging.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like a baggie. And then they got to get a twisty to
Yeah,
hold it up.
to hold it
Yeah,
up,
we
yeah.
call those sagnums.
So,
Angie's a comedian on the low.
no, she loves comedy.
I know, no, I'm talking about
I'm a fan.
you are a fan, but you're kind of funny.
Thank you, Jasmine.
No problem.
No, but this is why I'm really excited because for myself as an entrepreneur in Brooklyn, and then to have you opening this, I was just hyped. And we're gonna do the coffee uplifts people and the drink
Yes.
fresh juice in there,
Perfect.
so that's another thing. But I do want to dig into the history. You got on your video music box sweatshirt, and you know originally I really, really, really knew Ray DeJon from Video Music Box. So you and Ralph McDaniel still super cool to this day. How did all that transpire?
Wow. So, let's see. Let me go back a little bit. So I was working in substance abuse. That's my initial career. And, you know, I was this guy that I would, you know, host and do all of the fundraisers for my jobs. And I became this MC doing fashion shows and weddings. I worked under Dr. Bob Lee from WBLS. His sister happened to be executive director at the program I was working. I started doing that. And then Ralph, I kept going to Ralph McDaniels for an interview. And I got on this other show called Dance Tracks USA with this other guy named Tony Toon, who mimicked Ralph's show that was on once a week. Kept going to Ralph. He kept turning me down. He's like, I got enough. I got Crazy Sam. I got Tuffy. I got all these people. I'm good. Until the holidays came.
Okay. Uh-oh.
And he says, I'm busy. I'm going to give you a shot.
Okay.
And that was 30 years ago.
Persistence.
Yeah, and he put me out there, and I've been on his show ever since. Of course, I don't do it as much anymore, but I've been on that show ever since. And everybody always asks me, how did you translate from a counselor
Yes.
to a host on TV? Because hosting and interviewing, whether it's Biggie Smalls or Tupac or anybody, it's the ability to get people to talk in a safe zone.
Okay.
And as a counselor, I developed those skills. So I went into interviewing artists very, very easily. It came naturally. I would look at the bullet points that they gave me. Whenever I go to a press day, I would look at the bullet points and translate it into my own story
Right.
and be able to interview artists. From that point, the popularity on Ralph's show allowed me to start doing my own thing.
Yes.
But I didn't want to do a video show because I didn't want to step on the guy's toes
Oh.
who gave me an opportunity. And that's when the comedy thing started coming. You know, this guy one day said, hey, why don't you help me promote this show? I want to do comedy. I'm like, I would love to do comedy. I was one of those guys that I would snap on people when I was younger.
Right.
But
So I had
sometimes
it in
that
me.
doesn't translate.
Yeah, and then I promoted the show. And since I was popular, every time I promoted the show, it would sell out because I was on Video Music Box.
Right,
That's
people
the
knew
guy
you.
from Video Music
Yeah.
Box. I used that. And then one day, Talent was my first host. He's one of the New York Kings.
Yep.
He didn't show up. He's
What?
like, Ray, you got to host a show.
Wow.
I was like,
Right
what?
there to pick up the pieces.
Let me tell you what to do. You already got a personality, Ray.
Yep.
You're already on stages. You already do concerts. You already do shows. You could do it. And he gave me some pointers. He said, use music, name that tune. You're good with improv and just get the crowd going. You don't really have to do a set.
Right.
And I did it, and I developed a love for it, and that was it. I became this comedic host. All the comedians were hating on me because I
Were
was
they?
hosting my own show.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. But you know, half the battle is getting people to show up. I feel like when it comes to comedy shows, because you could be great at doing comedy, but not great at promoting.
Right.
And so I've seen a lot of comedians do like, you know, smaller venues try to do their own night. And if you
Right.
can't get that following and can't sell it out, it's just
It's
difficult.
it's meaningless, yeah.
You
don't
have to have a special skill set and more than just one skill.
yeah. Yeah. It's like a real, that's why being an entrepreneur fits in so well.
Makes sense.
With having done what you did. Now, I know that when you get on stage, you talk about your own personal situations, and you being a substance abuse counselor, let's talk about what led you to going down that path.
Well,
He
had
said,
I had a very very, very troubled childhood. I have a book that's coming out that's called My Sixth Sense is Humor.
Okay.
Because humor is the main aspect of my life that has helped me to move through different obstacles, whether it was domestic violence, substance abuse, incarceration, my career, and employment.
Okay.
Everything was based on my sense of humor and how that stood out. So in my, I went down the wrong path. I, got influenced by some people while I was in high school, and I was a hustler. I was a street person. I would rob and steal and sell drugs and then start using it myself until it became a problem. And I got arrested several times, winded up in Elmira Correctional Facility. The last bit I did was like 2.5 years. But while I was there, I got my GED. I started college. I came out. I finished. I got my degree in substance abuse.
Okay.
But I didn't let go of the fact that I used to use. I had a regular job, and I was working at this New York hospital as a housekeeping person. And every time I got my check, I would get high. But I didn't realize that I had a problem before I went to jail because I always had money, and I never had to want or need for it.
Right.
So I was working, and then eventually I started borrowing money, and eventually I started stealing from the job.
Wow.
So at first you were kind of a functioning
Yes.
addict.
Yes. Initially when I came out, because I didn't want to get back into the street life. I didn't want to get into stealing again until...
You didn't want to go back to jail.
Right. I didn't want to go back to
Did
jail.
your sense of humor help you in jail?
It did. It got me through jail. It got me through
How so?
incarceration. Because I was I was a snapper. I would always make fun. And then, guys were like, I want to lock next to Ray because he's funny. Because doing time is cool when you're around funny people.
Right.
It helps you pass the time away.
Right.
I do a joke on stage that before they found out I was pussy, I was homing some pussy because I had everybody laughing the whole time. So they couldn't figure out who Ray DeJon really was. So it was kind of like a deterrent, but it got me through.
Yeah.
It really did. And, as a child, the domestic abuse on my mom, my biological father, and 3 stepfathers after that, all physically abused my mom. And
you
I would
saw
go
that.
in the street and I would snap on people. And I figured out later that was a coping mechanism that helped me get by. And then eventually learned about domestic violence and all the aspects of it, and learned about substance abuse. And I said, you know what? When it got bad, and here's the tipping point. It got so bad that one day I went in the tunnel of a train station to smoke. And I went in there and I'm looking at the trains go by and I'm smoking. It's just 3 people, me, myself, and I. And I'm there and I'm like, I can't do this no more.
Wow.
And the following day I went to my aunt, and my aunt coincidentally knew the director of this program in Queens called Elmcore.
Okay.
And she put me in the following day. She said, I'm going to give you this $20. I'm coming to get you in the morning and I'm going to put you in the program.
Okay.
So I took the $20. I went and got high.
Oh, my God.
One last time.
And
You had to
then
do it one last
that
time.
was my last time. That was January 6, 1984.
Wow. So that was the
And that
anniversary that just passed in January.
Yeah, that was the last time that
And you know what? That's like God's plan right there, too, for you to talk to your aunt, and she coincidentally knows somebody.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times things do happen for a reason when you decide to seek help. So you went to seek help, and I know for some people they relapse, they go back, but for you that was
That was it.
That's great.
That was it. Most people's treatment plans are based on Narcotics Anonymous, which is people, places, and things. It's a network. So you're around positive people doing positive things, going to positive places. It helps you to stay sober. It's like a network. Back then, they didn't encourage you to go to AA or Narcotics Anonymous. But that same concept I've applied to my entire life. All of my friends, they don't use. If I have friends that drink, they're social drinkers. They're in control of their drinking. And I do a lot of very positive things. I stay around people that are doing things that are more than I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I can advance instead of staying in the same place.
And you also don't drink either.
No, I don't drink.
Yeah.
And music is such a huge part of you also. Was there ever a point you wanted to be an artist? Like for you?
I did. I was a rapper.
Okay.
What was
Hold
your-
up.
what was your-
That's funny she said that.
What was your rap name?
Booby D.
Oh my God.
Booby.
Why Booby?
Right?
D.
Yeah. I
He's
don't know.
the
That was-
original-
my mother named me that.
Yeah,
so
I figured it had to be.
I
He's
used
the
to-
original titty
no.
boy.
I battled Houdini.
No, you didn't.
They lived in White Court Projects. I lived up the block on 5th Avenue in St. John's. believe it or not, he was a twin. He had an identical twin. Did you know that?
What?
I did not
He
know
passed
that.
away, but
Yeah.
Oh wow.
yes, and I used to battle them in the park.
Them? You battled both of them?
No, just the one.
Okay.
Okay.
The other brother wasn't in
He wasn't
hip-hop.
into music,
No,
okay.
no. But yeah. But so
Were you
back
nice?
then,
Did you think he was gonna get a deal or
I did back then.
Okay.
Tell me the rap name again.
Booby D?
Booby D.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the BOO to the V.
Oh, we can bring it back, baby.
I know that's right.
Yeah, that was
Hilarious.
crazy. But yeah, so then, that's why the video music box thing for me was great.
Makes sense.
But you know what? It's interesting being in the club because you were in the club doing interviews. I mean, and you've interviewed some iconic
Yes.
people. Some interviews that like top tier artists at that time. Who was the most difficult person for you to actually get on camera? Because I know some people like you did Eminem. It's not
I
like
did Eminem.
Yeah, it's not like Eminem does a lot of interviews.
does
You did
not.
Biggie.
I did Biggie.
Wow.
I did. I tell you, the most difficult interview was very hard to interview. Oh my God, he's a producer. I can't remember his name.
He's a music producer?
Yeah, he's a music producer. It'll come to me, but he was like, he doesn't talk much, so you really got to pull. You ever
yeah,
do an
that's
interview,
hard,
Angela?
yes.
and
I'm
you
sure
gotta
Ange can relate.
pull?
Yeah, I've
You
had
get a
that.
lot of dead air and dead space in the interview, and you got to fill in those
That
gaps.
awkward.
Yeah, oh my God, the verses. Okay, who's involved in the verses? It was
Swizz and Timbaland.
Timbaland.
Oh, really? Timbaland?
Timbaland.
Well, things have
Timbaland.
changed.
Because he's chatty now.
Yeah, no, Timbaland. He was so hard. It was at Uncle Ralph's Urban Gear, the store, and we had him there, and he was like so hard to and Ralph told me, he's like, yo, you got to really pull teeth with this guy.
Okay.
Back then, he was real quiet.
He seems still a little reserved, so I can see that even more
Nah, he
quiet
was
back then.
extremely reserved
Yeah.
back then.
Are there ever interviews you did that you wouldn't put out? You know, like Angie Martinez has this Tupac interview that she's never put out.
Right.
We don't know why, or have any idea what's on it. But are there any things that you're like, this is too...
No, I wasn't a Wendy Williams type of interviewer.
Right.
And I never, and if there was an issue going on with an artist, I would ask them first if they wanted me to talk about it. I wouldn't surprise them
Right.
on
Okay.
camera. I really wasn't that
But sometimes you can't control what people say, and you're like, I don't know.
Oh
if I
yeah,
should-
well, that would be up to Ralph, because I would bring the tapes to Ralph, and if he wanted to put it up, he would put it on. That's not my decision. But I never really had an interview that went bad. like
Who
that.
was your favorite person to
Biggie.
interview? Who?
Biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
was
can see that.
I was nervous interviewing him.
Yeah. Were you?
Yeah, he was in the prime at the time, and he had on his Coogee sweater. And
Of course he did.
that interview, coincidentally, is used in a movie that's out with the police officer that's trying to find out who killed.
Okay.
It's in the movie. It's in the Bad Boy documentary. It's in the new Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. one. They use that interview a lot. Tupac was a good interview.
I feel like you haven't, but what?
I don't know. He's not really focused when you interview him. He's like all over the place.
Right.
Okay.
And,
And sometimes those interviews are in places that are distracting too.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's but I also feel like those are fun. Nobody does that anymore.
At all.
You know,
Kanye
at
though.
all.
So I was at a Jay-Z album release party, and Ralph goes, "Yo, there's a producer there named Kanye West. Make sure you get there. He's an up and coming. He got one of the tracks on the." So we go to look for him, right? So the camera guy goes up to him and says, "Hey, Kanye, we want to do it." He said, "Yo, chill. Not right now. I'm not ready." I was like, "Yo, who is this dude?" No, just back then, the arrogance. That's one time.
On brand.
Second time,
Yeah.
I'm at Hot 97 is doing Summer Jam. I'm backstage, and my brother was doing these airbrush shirts. Airbrushing at the time was big. He had the Biggie, he had the Kanye, he had the Little Kim, and so we gave Kanye a shirt.
Okay.
So we like, hey man, could you put this on? We want to do an interview with you on Video Music Box. So he's putting his shirt. He takes off his other shirt. He's putting it on, and the camera guy pulls the camera up,
Uh-oh.
and he went crazy. Yo, turn that camera off. Yo, you see? Yo, I'm not dressed yet, bro. Yo, what you doing? I'm like, yo, dude, calm down. He's not even recording.
Right.
Nah, bro. And he went. This is when the tights started coming out. So
Okay.
everybody was moving away from baggy,
Yeah.
and he was getting into the tight stuff. So
Right.
he had to tuck his shirt in, and he put
Do all
it in.
that.
He made it all. And he said, now I'm ready.
So he's always been like,
Nah, I've always seen that with
Yeah.
Kanye.
interesting.
That's not a surprise to me. I really feel like people are themselves before. A lot of people say that stardom changes people. I don't believe that. I believe you come into it with the same personality. It's just you have a bigger platform, so
Right.
you're more exposed.
Yeah.
But you were already like that. If you look at the documentary with Kanye,
Yeah.
he had cameras following him when he was
Already.
nobody.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it just turns the volume up on who you really are.
Yeah.
It just heightens it so we can all hear and see who you really
I mean, some
are.
people do.
Yeah.
I will say some people do change, though.
Yeah.
Some people do. But I think with Kanye, because I met him early on, too, and witnessed some things, and I was like, okay.
That's different.
Yeah. And so some people were not surprised by, I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm not.
But
not
he didn't
surprised.
change though. He's
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah, he is. Now, let's talk about that transition, though. So you said you were like, okay, I want to start branching off and doing my own thing. I don't want to step on Ralph
Right.
McDaniel's toes. So let's do this. And then you said talent. You ended up stepping in. So then what happened after that?
So after that, I started promoting and producing shows. At first, I had a booking agent that would book the comedians for me until I started developing a relationship, getting the numbers on my own. And so I did what's called a comedy room. So let me explain. In comedy in New York City, there's different aspects of comedy. You have mainstream,
Okay.
you have urban, and then you have comedy rooms.
Okay.
Okay. So mainstream is your typical club like Stand Up New York, Broadway Comedy Club, Dangerfields, places like that. Mainstream meaning that most of the comedians, they're either they're Caucasian or they're in the sort of like
Pop music.
yeah pop
Like how
Non-black,
pop is
non-brown.
pop music, yeah.
yeah, and the style of comedy is different because they don't use a DJ like we do with
Right.
urban comedy, Def Comedy Jam, Kid Capri, music coming out. A lot of those kinds of comedians, they use music sometimes in their jokes, so it's a different twist
Yes.
to it. Mainstream, there's no DJ. You just go right up.
Like Jerry Seinfeld.
Right. That's what you call stand up.
I don't know if I've ever seen a comedian just come on stage with no music. But I've just black
Yeah.
comics. I just
Like when I do the mainstream rooms and I go there, they just introduce you. You walk
just
right
walk
up.
up
There's
there.
no
Feels
music.
kind of dry the way you're describing it. I don't-
Yeah, it's not a vibe for
Right.
us.
No flavor.
But it's okay though. Like the Comedy Cellar, you just walk right up. Comedy
Right.
Cellar is the most infamous comedy,
That's
Yes.
where
club.
everyone goes to work out their material.
All the
to-
big names.
Yeah,
go.
all the big names.
And only big names can go there and work out because
Okay.
if you're not a qualified comedian, you're not going to get in the Comedy Cellar. You have to have big endorsements from people.
That's where John Lasseter hosted that night where everyone showed up. I think it was like Chris Rock and Dave
Wow.
Chappelle and Amy Schumer. And it was
Yeah.
like all in one night. They all showed up.
Yes, and then when they show up, they bump all the other comedians.
course.
If you're on the list,
Gotta
you get
go.
bumped.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, a comedy room is a venue that's not a comedy club that somebody takes and they translate it or they transform it into a comedy space that night.
Okay.
So that's what I was doing for a while. I had different places, restaurants, bars, and I would create a comedy night. on
Okay.
Wednesday night
You were
over
doing
here.
pop-ups.
Like,
Yeah,
like
but it was
Salsa Con Fuego would be considered.
yes.
Okay, because
That-
it's not a comedy,
It's not a comedy club.
but they do comedy there.
They do
or something.
comedy
Right.
there.
Gotcha.
Right. So, and so that's different. So I had like a bunch of those going on. So when I had a bunch of those going on, people like and all of these stars
Red
came
Rooster
through.
does that too downstairs.
All of these stars came through me. Kevin Hart, Mike Epps, J.B. Smoove, Bill Burr, Lisa Lampanelli, all these comics when they were brand new, D. Ray Davis, Carlos Miller, all came to these places in New York because New York was the comedy mecca.
Yes.
Right.
And we had comedy rooms all over the place. We didn't have comedy clubs, but we had comedy rooms. And I was a go-to guy. So there's a documentary now on this guy from L.A. named Guy Torrey, where Guy Torrey had over there, what he was doing was the same thing I did over here in New York, where I gave the comedians a space to work out their material
Right.
and become better. I used to pay Kevin Hart $25.
Which, by the way, a lot of comedians didn't get paid at all.
Right.
Right.
They actually had to sell tickets and
Right.
make
Work the
sure-
door.
Yeah.
So now that's the
Hand out
difference
flyers.
between urban comedy rooms and mainstream. Mainstream, in order for you to perform, you got to bring people. It's called a bring to.
Okay.
Got to bring people, or you got to sell tickets, or you got to do this, or you got to do that, and they pay very little money.
Right.
$25, $50. In the urban rooms, comedians are getting $100, $150, $75.
Oh, that's
So it's
good.
different. You know, they get paid a little more. So then you have, like I started doing this thing called comedy at the movies. I took a movie theater, and I brought comedy in front of the screen, and I started this the week after 9/11. It was literally the week after was my first show in the movie theater, and I sold it out.
Wow.
In New York.
After 9/11?
The week after
People couldn't
9/11.
even go anywhere.
Yeah, well, people wanted to
They
go
went
somewhere.
there.
They wanted to laugh.
But I remember we couldn't even go through the tunnel.
Yeah.
Like if you lived in Jersey, you lived in Jersey City too
Yes,
for
I
a
did,
period of
yes.
time. We couldn't even go through the Holland Tunnel
Yeah.
to get to the city for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then that's when I started stepping it up. I brought Queen Comedy some more, D.L. Hughley, Bill Bellamy, Cheryl Underwood, Adele Gibbons, Bill Burr, Lisa Lampanelli, Tracy Morgan, all these comedians, because I had a bigger venue.
Right.
Now I could accommodate them and be able to pay that certain amount of money,
Right.
which is what they're doing now at Salsa Con Fuego.
Mm-hmm.
Since Salsa Con Fuego is a big venue and they book them themselves, they're allowed, they can afford to do those comedians.
So now with 275 Park, can you just call any of these people and they'll show up?
I can.
That's good.
The beauty of being in this for so long.
I just want to make sure people still treating you right. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you know, you got to go through the measures, just like with you, Angela. I know Angela, but I got to go through the proper steps, and I understand that.
Right.
I understand that these guys have, you know, a structure now. Like,
Yes.
Ray, I'm going to talk to you, but, you know, you got to talk to this person.
Right.
Like, for instance, Dan, he's been in touch with me. I got to work it out through Dan
Yeah.
to get to Angela or whatever.
Wait,
so,
no, hold on. Don't do it like
Dan
that.
is a little
That
bit.
is not how it happened.
Ange is more accessible.
no.
He called me and I asked him to come up here, and then I just put Dan on to schedule it.
No,
You
no,
have
I
to
know,
go
I
through
know.
Dan to get to
I'm
me.
just
Not do
saying.
that.
No, but everybody just can't. Everyone doesn't have access to you.
But Ray does.
But he does.
No, I do, but
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm just saying, like, you know, so I go through those things. But
Yes.
once they know it's me,
Right,
they're like,
it's
oh,
on.
that's, yeah, one time I was trying to get in touch with Kevin Hart, and the guy kept pronouncing my name wrong.
So he probably
was
know,
like,
who
is
was
that Ray DeJon? And he called me, and I was on stage at a show, and I'm like, I got to take this call. So I put him
you
on
did.
speaker, and I put him in the mic. He was like, yo, man, he was pronouncing DeJon, it's DeJon. He's like,
Ray DeJean.
I was upset, man. I'm sorry. And I put him on the mic, and he started talking to the audience.
Oh,
but,
nice.
yeah, you know, it's been a great experience for me.
Yeah.
And in 275 Park, I'm going to be able to bring the bigger names, especially now that Caroline's is closed.
Yeah. That's what I told you. Perfect timing. I was shocked that Caroline's closed.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I feel like it always was lit. Like that was
Yeah.
kind of my go-to spot.
You always talked about Carolina.
Yeah,
especially on air.
I actually used to go to Caroline's a lot.
I know
Yeah,
you did.
I did a lot of shows there. I produced
Yeah.
a lot of shows there. And she didn't want to leave. They tried to quadruple her rent. She
That's
wasn't having it.
so disrespectful.
It's
by
awful.
The way.
Yeah.
Because
It's
I don't know
awful.
what they're gonna put there that's gonna be
Comparable.
as
Not just
impactful.
Yeah, to be able to pay that, I don't know.
Well, now we have your place.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm so excited because, you know, I'm from Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn. You went to Erasmus too,
I
right?
did.
Yeah. So, and I grew up right by Erasmus.
How'd
my
you know
mom,
that?
My mom went there. I do a little research, Ray. I
Oh,
mean, I know
wow.
everything.
Yeah, I went to Erasmus.
She
I
does a
made-
little deep
I
dive.
made it to the
I do a deep
11th
dive.
grade. It's funny. When you bring up Erasmus, so that was my first, like, real girlfriend. I never, I'm in touch with her now. She became a dancer in Vegas and all of this. But she's the one person, you know how we don't remember phone numbers?
You remember her number still?
Dude, oh my God.
Because that's when you had cell phones.
Listen,
Till this day, when
he
I
talks
see her, I'm
about
like
her-
718-941-6913.
Okay.
That's not her number no
Oh,
more.
okay.
It's not her number no more.
It's someone's number. No, but do you see when he started talking about her, his whole demeanor changed and his face changed? You was like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to his wife, who, by the way, no.
Can you
Yeah.
can you give Ange a small set one day?
Stop it.
A small what?
Set like can she do a small set or at
100%.
No, I would never embarrass myself.
100%.
People think they can do stand-up comedy
don't.
until they try to do stand-up
I
comedy.
do not think that. Mm-mm.
No, some people do. Some people think I'm just funny and I could just get up on that stage and I'll kill it. And we've seen that go wrong
A lot of
quite a few
times.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing.
Have
It's
you ever
not-
been booed?
No.
You are that rare.
You're a rarity.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you why.
Because you can snap back and you know how to
Okay.
turn the room around.
So
Got it.
I'm a comedian where the cart came before the horse.
Okay.
Let me explain what that means.
Okay.
I learned, first of all, I'm a personality already. So when
Yeah.
I was on Video Music Box, I developed a personality. Personalities last longer than gimmicks. Personalities, if you look at the radio stations now with the people that have been on there the longest, they're personalities. They're not a gimmick because you get tired of gimmicks real quick.
Yeah.
You don't get tired of personalities. So basically, since I hosted a lot and I learned how to improv and do current events and do this and talk to people and get my personality to connect with folks.
Right.
When I get those dead spaces in my set, I'm able to do this.
You can feel them.
Right.
And recover.
Mm-hmm.
Most comedians that only have a set, when they lose their footing, they don't know how to recover.
Right, yeah.
Because they have no improv ability. They don't know how to talk and have a conversation and get the focus off.
And everything doesn't work in every audience.
It doesn't.
too.
No,
So
right.
if you're not able to improv and say, okay, this set was killing here, but this audience, it ain't hitting like.
Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
giving.
Yeah, and you have to read your audience. I always watch the people that come in. I'm looking at the ages, the ethnicities, what time it is, how's the room set up. There's places that you go to where there's a bar and a blender, and it's a distraction.
It is.
And then half the people don't know it's a comedy night. So now you're dealing with people that don't really care about comedy.
Right.
And you have to bring all of that together. And if you don't understand the dynamics of a room, you're gonna fail.
Right.
And go ahead, Jasmine.
I have a question. I know that your crowd is for 35 and up, right? The comedians, the talent that's going to come, are you going to have any younger
Of course.
comedians? Like any of these TikTok people or any of these, different kind of comedy? Or what do you
Yeah,
have in mind?
no. I have young comics now. I just
Okay.
had a young lady the other day. Her name is Young Tep. She's a lesbian comedian. She might be like 24, 25.
Okay.
But, comedy is comedy. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter the age. It matters how you connect with an audience, because at the end of the day, you can't just do comedy for your set of people. I tell comedians all the time, you're going to go to Miami and do a show. They don't have no trains in Miami. You can't do jokes about the train.
Because
That's a
we don't
fact.
understand in
They'll be
Miami.
like, huh?
Yeah, you can't do jokes about Jamaicans in Arkansas. They don't know
We
what
don't
you're talking
understand.
about. So you have to create a set that's universal. And it's what everybody goes through. Everybody takes a shit. Everybody has family.
Well, not everybody.
I don't take a shit. Yeah.
Jasmine has never done
I've
that.
neber had
You
a shit.
take a doodle, not a shit.
I take a poop. I got a kid. I take a poop.
You take a poop.
No, but I am excited just hearing the whole evolution of how you got to where you are now, how you guys partnered up and teamed up. I think it's great just because it's important to have your own space. Like you said, you were helping all these other venues and you were getting paid and getting paid well. But now for you to be able to say, come to my spot, that's a whole different feeling.
It's a hell of a feeling. And so Kwame, he is involved in a lot of music groups, and he could tell you a little bit about some of the productions that we're going to be having.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so when I met Ray, I was at the Performing Arts Center at your college. I was there for 20 years and, produced a lot of shows and tons of stuff for the college. And, when we were talking, it was like the work that we put in so much work for other people in other spaces, and it was time for us to do it for ourselves.
Right.
And it was something we kind of just talked about in passing initially, but we never forgot it. And it came
Ray's
back
over here
around.
dying. I feel
Yeah.
bad. You
And,
You good?
Okay,
Itch in my throat.
okay. All right, let's continue.
but we never forgot it. So we talked about it kind of in passing a couple of years ago, and it kind of came back around. And when the opportunity came, we did it. And so, I've produced a lot of music events at the college, jazz concerts, R&B concerts, all types of stuff like that. And I wanted a space to be able to do that. And then when we talked, it was like maybe it could be a space that's like Caroline's meets SOB's all in one venue.
You know what I love? Because both of you have come across so many people through work in different situations. What made you decide to team up with each other? Because I think partnership is important, but to know who your right partner is when it comes to business, that's super. Like, even with my partner, Tony, you guys met him, but we have different skills that we bring to the table as partners. We don't both do the same thing. And so for both of you, what made you say, this is who I want to work with?
Well, when Ray was producing some shows at the college, and when I became the director, I was there for 20 years, but then like the last 8 years is when I was the director. When I wanted to do a comedy show, the first person I called was Ray. I was like, I know the work he does, I know his work ethic, I know what he puts out, I know the quality of what he produces, and we started producing shows together, like a co-production at the college, where we produced a show together, and from that, we just developed a relationship, and you know, he was always my go-to person. Anytime we wanted to do anything comedy, it was always a success. So I knew that we would have a good, you know, working relationship together. And you know, 5-10 years later, you know, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Production, sound, and lighting, you know, Angela, is very important. And I don't like to go somewhere and I don't sound good. I hate that when the mics. You can't hear yourself. There's no monitors. This guy's a superb production person. And I feel like as far as entertainment, that I'm good at what I do. And the combination has been awesome.
It's the perfect match.
Yeah, it's a perfect match. You know, when I get on the stage now, it's like, okay, it's my time. He's been doing all this work with production. It's my time now. I get up there. I feel like I sound good. And the people are like, you know, the lighting is great. It's a good combination. The experience for when somebody pays to see anyone, especially my people, from the door to the food to the end of the night, it should be an experience and not just a show. And we want to make sure that it's a whole experience from the front door until they leave.
I love it.
Bottom line, I'm so overly concerned with how people feel and think about what I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not good because I overthink, but I'm real meticulous and I'm very particular about the experience of a customer. If a customer, like a lot of times I put my number, people are calling me like about tickets, like, this is Ray? Like, you know, the phone?
Yeah, you're
I'm
wilding.
like, yeah, this
That's
is
too
me.
much, Ray. That's
Yeah.
too much.
You're
Too
wilding.
much.
Yeah, that's too
It's
much.
going to be
But
too much
I was
at
just
that
telling
point.
I was just telling them I got to pull back. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
all
think
of this
so.
stuff, it's got to go.
That's probably part of you being a host as well.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm the same way too. Like she's like, yes.
Yeah.
But you overwhelm yourself with that, you know, and that's things that you can delegate to other people.
Yeah.
So
It
you
can
two,
be
you two should both listen to this advice
too much
to yourself.
Yeah.
We did an event, like a meet and greet for the residents of the building. Ray gave his phone number out to everybody at the
See.
event.
Oh my God.
Just announced it on the mic. Just told everybody his phone number.
But you know, it speaks to who you are, your character, and the fact that you have all these relationships.
He clearly never answers the phone. I would know.
But no, he has all.
Take my number.
Listen, but he has all these relationships in this business. It makes sense that you're the type of person that gives your number out.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, but I'm going to stop.
Yeah, I'm going to stop.
Yeah, because it's going to be
stop.
overwhelming
I
at
gotta
some point.
This is too much.
Yeah.
All right. So let people have all the information. Right now, you guys are still kind of, I guess, I don't know if you still call it a soft launch, but you're waiting to get the permitting for more seating.
Yes. Well, we're doing shows now. We're rolling out gradually.
Tony Robbins was
Tony Robbins was
he was
just
there.
there. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing comedian. And again, that's one of my friends. He normally does theaters, but he's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So it's good when you have relationships.
And I know they love that intimate experience too.
Yes.
I think that's always, like, I would always love shows better when I would go to a comedy club as opposed to going to the Garden.
Yes.
Yeah. It is a different experience as
It's a different
as
experience.
a attendee.
And we're
a
not
fan.
just we're doing comedy, but we're also doing unplugged series like,
Oh, nice.
let's just say Big Daddy Kane comes in, or
Ooh, nice.
MC Light, where we'll have 4 shows over the weekend with smaller crowds, 200 people. And so when they're performing, they're talking to the audience.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, when I made this, you know, Bismarck was influential in me getting his first single out, you know, whatever, and here it is. So that kind of thing, when people are not on the road doing tours
Yeah.
and they're available. So I've already spoke to several artists about doing that. So it's
That's
not
dope.
just going to be comedy, but it's also going to be music on an old school hip hop and R&B level.
It
And
really
during
is
the
going
day, it's a cafe. I just want to put
Yes.
that out there as
This
well.
really is going to be a full experience, and it's in Brooklyn.
And it's in
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
place where stars are born.
I know that's right.
So-
But also during the day, it's a cafe, so people can come there, work. There's some
Yes.
high-speed Wi-Fi.
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, we just hooked that up yesterday.
I know that's right. I love
said
it.
that. I didn't know, but I think I knew it had to be.
Yeah, no, we were just literally just working on that.
That's
yesterday.
funny.
We're going to be doing that during the day. We're going to be doing brunches. We're actually, I'm talking to the Brooklyn the flea market folks.
Okay.
So we're gonna do vendors.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful space.
Listen,
Yes.
you had me at brunch. So
Because
Yeah,
it used to be
we're
a supermarket, right?
Yes.
So imagine how big that. It was a
It's
huge
big enough.
supermarket. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
5,000 square feet. Pretty cool.
okay. All right.
All right. So date night, girls' night out. I guess y'all guys be having nights out too.
Girls
so.
brunch.
Girls brunch.
Yeah.
Girls brunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
I love the woman support.
Yeah.
You guys are more consistent.
We are. And we
Well,
spend money too.
And we're here to support too, but I do want to thank you guys both for taking time out of your busy schedules to come here. We want to make sure everybody knows that this venue is here and that it's for all of us to go to, whether it's during the day for the cafe, the nighttime events, the comedy, the Unplugged series, the brunches, everything that's going to be going on. I'll be there because, you know, I am a Brooklyn frequenter of establishments.
Brooklyn, stand up.
And after you have your dinner, and you know, sometimes you get the itis, and you want to pick yourself back up. You're gonna get some of Angela Yee's coffee.
Yes.
We're
I
gonna
drink
have
it
some
every
amazing
morning.
espresso
Yes.
martinis.
right.
You know, I'll be there for that.
So
And make sure you have
That's a good night, Brooklyn stand up.
it is. And
There you go.
make sure
That's
you have
cute.
listen, you should have a mocktail. You should have a mocktail on the menu.
Yeah, with the juices.
Yeah, with the juices.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do nice mocktails for people who don't necessarily drink.
Yeah.
You know? So
No,
I'm with it. Well, we should name it after
super
you.
Dope. Name it after Ray DeJon.
Yeah.
Of course.
The DeJon
That's
mocktail.
pretty cool.
Of course. Full of ideas.
Or maybe DeJean. No.
I know. A lot of people. So my name is spelled Dejean because it's French. My dad is from Haiti,
Okay.
and my mom is from Puerto Rico, which you all know that equals Dominican.
Right.
But that's another story. So people say DeJean because it's
DeJean.
spelled that way, but it's
Oh, that's why you
DeJon.
changed the spelling.
That's right. That's why I changed it to Jon.
So we
people
can
at
pronounce it
least
correctly.
say it somewhere close to what it's supposed to be.
That was smart.
So,
We did not know that either. Okay.
Instagram is 275 Park BK.
Okay.
That's the Instagram, 275 Park BK. And then my Instagram is at Ray DeJon, RayDejon. We appreciate the follows. And, you know,
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
You know me, I'll be having all type of nights out. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys both so much. I appreciate you, support you, and y'all are my first Mastery of Comedy guests, so I appreciate that too.
thank you, Angela.
We got to start it off with a
Appreciate
bang.
it.
Pop the
Very
cherry.
much.